I've just always been someone who can put one foot in front of the other. I remember running off the back of the helicopter, and that was the first time that I heard the crack and thump of a round flying over your head. Life's short, and life's even shorter when you're shooting bullets at each other. There's kind of RPGs flying over our head, machine gun fire. Energy is something we've all got, right? We're all giving off some sort of energy. I remember just running to this wall and just getting down behind this wall, and we all just looked at each other and just went, well, this is it, isn't it? So my name's Jay Morton, ex-Special Forces, ex-SAS, and I come from Preston. Like, I wasn't really someone that got into trouble a lot, but I think kind of looking back, I was just bored. I was just bored of the topics that were getting taught. I didn't really like school, and at the time when you're a young kid, you don't understand why. But it's literally that, it's a lack of stimulation. And that transferred onto when I went to college after I left school. I went to study sport, and yeah, enjoyed playing sport, but 90% of the time was sat in a classroom in a cage, and that's not where I'm supposed to be. So quit after a year. Then I just got stuck in dead-end jobs working in factories, and had a job making UPVC glass windows and a job as a delivery driver. And yeah, that kind of sparked my interest into going into the military. I've always been into fitness or pushing myself. Even as a kid, I was the one that was going out running when I was at school. I remember my parents, or I remember I bought, for Christmas, I wanted the weights bench out of Argos, right? And the set of weights, and I was 13 years old, just trying to get massive, just doing everything completely wrong. So from an early age, I found comfort in pushing myself. I think human beings are just pre-programmed to just take the easy option. And the world we live in right now just gives so many options to be in. We live in a house, right? We don't have to feel the weather outside of the elements. There's no rain. We've all got a warm bed to sleep in. We've all got cash in the bank, whether we work or not. You walk down to the shops or get in your transport vehicle, your car. It's everything's easy, right? Life is set up to be easy. And so it's more about just, it's by no one's fault that everyone just ends up living the easiest life that they possibly can, and that monotonous kind of life that everyone just seems to fit into, right? Leave school, get grades, go to college, get A-levels, study, go to university, and then get that 9-to-5 job, earn a load of cash, save up for your retirement, retire, have that mortgage and that car. And I don't know, it's you've got to be able to pull away from that and try and understand why everyone's doing that. And everyone's doing it just because everyone else is doing it. And that's not a reason to be doing stuff. So you've got to say, well, what do I want in life? What do I want to do? And, for me, the military gave me a lot of those answers, because it was something completely different. I think even just going to war or going to battle or being involved in combat, you grow up in a different way and you get to see the world in a different way. I always thought that I wasn't set out for the normal life. We have this vision of a normal life where you get up in the morning, you kiss your wife goodbye and wave goodbye to your kids and set off on your 9-to-5 job on the train or in the car, and you work for those 8 or 9 hours during the day and then finish and then come home and go to bed and then repeat that. I don't know, I always kind of knew deep down that that life would just not entertain me from the start. Even now, I think that gut feeling or that gut instinct is generally how I navigate through life. And I think the more you do it and the more you actually follow that gut feeling and and listen to it, the more in tune you get to it. But back then, 16, 17 years old, it was, I don't know, like I've always had it in my, like I'm competitive, right? I've always wanted to, secretly or whatever, just be better than the people around me. Because I guess I never had that growing up. Like I was quite a chunky kid and quite a shy kid. So I've always just had this thing that's followed me around. I've always had this like vision of myself following me around, that I'm just this shy, chunky kid that I was when I was younger. And I've always just tried to get away from that throughout my life. Like I was 19 years old turning up at basic training, and I still had that like element of that fat shy kid that was like chasing me around. So like when I turned up, I remember turning up at the train station, and I remember looking around at the other lads and just thinking, like there's some big lads, but everyone looks stronger and fitter than you, or like more confident, or you just have this perception of them, and they're probably, looking back now, they're doing exactly the same. They're looking at you going like, fuck, like these guys are stronger, fitter than me. I think it's just something that humans have got ingrained into them. You turn up as a civilian, wide-eyed, eager, get your head shaved, and you leave as a soldier, and it takes 6 months. I kind of shocked myself getting through that, because I was never the fittest, like I was never the strongest, I was never at the front. Like, and we used to do these exercises where, it'd be a warm-up before we went on a tab, and the PTIs would, point to a tree and just say, right, everyone to that tree and back, last 10, go again. And I'd always be in that last 10. And then it'd be, right, go again, last 5, go again. And I'd always be in that last 5. But I kind of I had a bit of a theory around that. And I guess because I was never the fittest, never the strongest, but I've always completed stuff and always hung on. So I've always been used to being, in that fatigue state. Like that's quite normal for me, which, as we all know, that builds resilience and that builds a stronger mind and body. Whereas the front runners, they were just used to, running at their normal pace and just being okay with that. So when you deploy to places like the jungle or some of these harsher environments, like where everyone is on that level of fatigue, like for me it was just normal. And you'd see some of the fittest people just fall over and, collapse with heat stroke, or just not be able to carry on just because of the conditions. Do you know what? Like my head goes empty when you're in that dark place. I've just always been someone who can put one foot in front of the other. And I think if you break down any mental or physical challenge, it's just a case of progression. And as long as you can keep that momentum and keep that progression going forward, you'll get to where you need to go.
Have you ever had a point in time where you've obviously applied that method, one foot in front of the other, but you felt like maybe I couldn't put that next foot in front of the other foot? No. I like going back to, again, like I'm in my comfort zone when I'm fatigued. So, that I just know that I can just keep, you break it down, right, and it's just one step, and then the next step's just one step, and just forget about where it is that you need to go and just concentrate on that next step. And like the rest is just time, and time moves, right? Time ticks down, and then eventually you just find yourself in that position. I joined the Paras, I was 19 years old, deployed to Iraq, I was 20, deployed to Afghanistan in 2006, I was 21. And we got involved in like heavy fighting pretty early on. And like 21 years old, like all your mates are still doing the same thing that they're doing back at home, and you grow up very quick. It's a different kind of education. And then I think kind of,
you know, like you're full of testosterone when you're 21 years old, aren't you? And you know, you almost, I don't know, you kind of want to be in battle, but at the same time, you don't want the bad, you don't want the negative aspects of it. Like you don't want to see your mates die, or anyone die for that reason on your side. And I think the older you get, like the more wiser you get, and the more you're able to like listen to your body and mind more, and just like understand more about, I guess, what you want and where you fit into combat. And I guess like the further on in my career was more of just like seeing what human beings are just capable of doing to each other. And again, you can look at that in like a really negative way, but I looked at it as a positive, and just because, you know, life's short, and life's even shorter when you're shooting bullets at each other. So it's like, you know, there's kids or whatever, or young people, or all these people dying, and it's like they're all living in this like hellhole kind of thing. And it was, for me, it was more about, you know, it taught me more about just how I want to live my life outside of that area, and understanding that life's short, and you do what you do to make you happy, and you follow those things instead of, you know, what we say about like following that normal life dream. Energy is something we've all got, right? We're all giving off some sort of energy. You know, I call it drains and radiators. Like people are either a drain or they're a radiator. You know, you always know that drain when you're around that person. You generally come away feeling drained, right? That's what they do. The negative people, they're the kind of people that make excuses for what they're doing, whether they're wearing the wrong boots or, you know, they've not had breakfast that morning. Yeah, they're drains, right? And I think the more you're around those people, the more you feel it. And then you've got radiators, and radiators radiate energy, right? You know a radiator, you know when you're around someone, because they're positive people. They've always got your back. They've always got new ideas. They're always doing stuff. They're always wanting to move forward. And I think the more you can be around radiators and the less you can be around drains, like the better your energy's going to be, right? Positive mindset's important. Just seeing things in a positive way. You've only got to turn the media and news on now to be swarmed with negative. And it's about, you know, surrounding yourself with good people, having goals and ambitions, and seeing every fuck up and failure as just a positive. You know, everything's there to learn. Everything's put in front of you to learn from. And it's how you view the world, right? If you view the world in a positive mindset, then you're always going to be moving forward. You're always going to be creating and meeting good people. On that 2006 tour of Afghanistan, so the first time that I came under contact, we deployed to a place called Nauzad. We had a patrols platoon that were already stationed there, doing some recce stuff, and we literally landed in these CH-47 helicopters. I remember running off the back of the helicopter, and you know, that was the first time that I heard the crack and thump of a round flying over your head. And we'd just run into this massive scrap that the patrols lads were in. So there's kind of RPGs flying over our head, machine gun fire, and we just looked at each other and just burst out in laughter. And yeah, I remember just running to this wall and just getting down behind this wall, and we all just looked at each other and just went, well, this is it, isn't it? Like, this is it started. And that was a long day. Like, you know, I think we were in contact for say 6 to 8 hours. And personally, I think once you get over the first reaction of the first round that's been fired and the first round that you've heard, the rest of it just all sounds the same. Like you're in that moment then. And the rest is just about thinking logically about
how you combat that situation and how you get out of that situation. Like, I've felt fear before in the past, and like, fear generally only happens for like a short period of time, because there's usually a logical explanation that you can put to why you're feeling that fear, whether it's a round that's just cracked over your head or something that's just exploded, or maybe there's some rock fall on a mountain. Like, that's a moment to be scared, right? But there's a logical explanation for it, and there's usually an action that you can take which is going to get you out of that fear feeling and get you to some sort of safety. So you've got to break it down that way. I think kind of the things that scare me more than those dangerous kind of things are just, like living a stagnant life or living a boring life. Like, boredom and mediocrity scare me way more than climbing Everest or being shot at. And I think, like, I'd hate to just get to the age of like 80 or 90 years old or 100 and just turn back and just think that I've wasted time. It can be quite intimidating when you first start, because especially me, like, I was 24 when I passed selection, and like the rest of the guys in my troop were all, late 30s, early 40s. They're all men, and so it's quite intimidating. And they've already got high standards, right? They've been using all the kit and equipment and doing run-outs way before I've turned up. So it's, I've now, like, I've done a 6-month course, right, which is selection, but that doesn't mean that I'm a special forces soldier. Like, that comes after. Like, when you start training with the teams, when you start learning different crafts. Selection is like a race of attrition, and you generally start with around 150 to 170. In the first 3 weeks, you're probably down to around 50, and then you go out on the next phase, and you could come back with, say, 20, 25 people, which is probably a good course. And then the rest of it's just training to get you ready to join the squadron. I think for me, like, I enjoyed selection. Like, there wasn't one day when I woke up and just went that I didn't want to be here. It was more just about just proving to myself that I could get through each day. And I kind of found enjoyment in seeing people fall off. I think a lot of people do, as in, not in a bad way, right? I didn't rub anyone's face in it. But when you're doing things that are difficult and you've got an easy option to get out, you can just walk off and pack your kit and go. And you'll be in a warm shower and bath and whatever food you want. So it's easy to quit, which makes it, the majority of people do quit. I think when that happens, like, you see their weakness, and it puts you up a level, right? It puts you up a level of, puts your strength up a little bit. As the less able members, or the less able soldiers start to drop off, you end up with a tight-knit bunch of guys that have all been through the same shit. And you form bonds through those dark times. You counteract it with a bit of humour. At the end, you're left with a good group of lads. I think failure is something that you should be seeking. Because to do anything that puts you out of your comfort zone, you're going to fuck up every now and then. And that is, that's failure, right? You shouldn't aim to fail, but, failure should be a byproduct of what you're doing. Because, like, I look back at some of the stuff I've done that I've what you would see as my biggest failures in life, and that's where you learn the most. Like, you learn the big lessons, right, from failing. Just like listening to myself instead of listening to other people. I think as well, like, everything that you see as being hard, I think,
when you start making progress, it starts opening doors, right? And then those doors open other doors, and then those other doors open other doors, and in no time you've kind of gone through different journeys and paths and ended up in places that you never thought you would do. Just start small. You've got to be honest with yourself, right? It's your choice, it's your life, no one else is going to change it. So you've got to make that decision. If you're not happy with your life and you want to change it, then do it, right? And I don't know what that is, what anyone else is feeling, but if you start small, and whether it's you want to get in shape, start walking, start trying to create habits that are healthy for your body and for your mind. Start walking, join a gym, join classes, put yourself in these situations. And this is where you grow, right? Because you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. And my uncomfortable situation is completely different to someone else's uncomfortable situation. And you could say that a million times over. And career's a big one, right? That's the comfiest thing that people have, is a career and money coming in, because that's, without money, the chances of being homeless and not being able to pay for food for your kids and your family, that's the biggest fear, right? And I can't tell anyone to change that. You've just got to ask yourself whether that's something that you want to change. We live in a normal world where people associate their skills to the job role they've got, or the qualifications that they got in university or college. Whereas I've gone and set tasks up in certain countries, that's the same as setting a business up, right? It's just different in a way. You've just got to look for different things. You've got to look for connections, you've got to network, you've got to buy assets, or buy things in and get people to do stuff for you. And that's the same in business. The two are the same. So it's more about just understanding what you can do as a person, because it's way more than what you think it is. And you just get led to believe that all you can do is that 9 to 5 or that job that you've got. Whereas actually, we live in such a world where you can just log onto a computer and learn anything that you want to learn and reskill yourself in anything. It's so easy. Going back to what we were saying before, it's the world's an easy place to live in. I don't think the human body's set up to not feel struggle. We've struggled all our life, right? And if you think the reason why we're all sat in these buildings and eating good food is because we struggled in the past, and that struggle has generated systems and put things in place, and now we've built supermarkets and cars, but that all came from struggle. So good things come from struggle, but it's hard to find it these days. It goes back to what I was saying before. It's struggle could just be going for a run, or struggle could be reading a book, just doing something difficult. When I was that shy kid, struggle for me was just having a conversation with someone. But the more I do it, the better I become. If you can look back in 10 years and just go fuck, I never used to be able to have a conversation with someone. Now I can walk into a room and speak to everyone openly and confidently. That's what you get from struggle, right? I think fitness and exercise is the easiest and best way to just find some sort of struggle. And it's manageable, right? It's manageable, it's easy. You join a gym, you go out for a run, and you've got something to work for. If you start running, you can work up to a 5K, a 10K, a marathon. It's measurable. You've got goals that you can tick off. If you're going into a gym, you can start lifting heavy, and you've got a measurement, right, that you can go off, that you can see yourself getting better at something. Sport's the same. Like I surf, I can feel myself every time I go surfing getting better and better and better, and that's a good feeling. And then you'll notice in other areas of your life that changes will happen, and whether it's confidence, or whether it's in the workplace, or whether it's in a relationship, or whether it's just your general happiness. The more of these things that you do when you're developing yourself and getting better and better, everything changes. I think if you want to go anywhere in life, you've got to make some sort of sacrifice. If you think that you've got that safe, comfortable job right now, there's going to be certain things that you're going to have to sacrifice, whether it's friendships, whether it's with loved ones, whether it's with family. But if you want to live life by your terms, you've got to make these sacrifices. Even if you've got an excuse, you just don't say it. Because no one likes someone who uses excuses. It's just weakness.
It sounds like you've had a career, and in that career you've learnt many lessons through stories or experiences, and then you're kind of putting them onto paper through your own perspective of things that you've learnt. But in terms of your career, or even maybe your life, what do you think the hardest lesson you learnt was?
Hardest lesson I've learned. Listen to yourself. Yeah, listen to yourself before you listen to anyone else. And I'm not going to go into the story because it's not for this, but yeah, I learned the hard way in a certain experience where I listened to someone else and something went wrong, when I knew what I should have been doing and I should have listened to myself. And you know yourself, the outcome, or what you want the outcome to be. So yeah, just listening to yourself a little bit more. Like, I have to own the fact that I listened to someone else, which is even worse, which plagues you, right? But then you learn those lessons the hard way. And like what you were saying, like you know yourself where you want to go, right? It's like when you ask someone their opinion of something, you already have the answer in your own head. You're just trying to find clarification, or you just want them to agree with you so that you can go ahead and do it. It's important to find purpose in everything that you do, right? And that's, you know, it's as important as it is in your career or in your fitness regime or your motivation. Because I guess like purpose brings momentum, and me personally, like if I'm not moving forward and I'm stale, then that's my worst nightmare. You know, we're all searching for some sort of momentum and progress in life, and you get that from just sticking one foot in front of the other. Whether it's fitness, whether it's career, just keep moving forward.